Hello, everybody. Welcome to IST 230. I'm, of course, Professor S, and this is today's lecture. So, since this is the first lecture of the semester, I want to emphasize that these recordings are considered supplement to the lectures in the classroom, not replacement. Okay? We'll kind of go into why I'm making these recordings later, but I just thought I'd emphasize that right off the bat. So anyways, what we're doing in this lecture today is introducing the course. I'll introduce myself, I'll introduce what the heck discrete math is, and I'll then also talk about like how we will get to learning it. Okay? Anyways, so let's talk about the class. So first of all, me, Penn State alumni, huge nerd, and then I have office hours that you can schedule through Canvas. Let's talk about, in order to understand what the heck discrete math is, let's kind of see how it fits into your current education. So most likely this has been your trajectory so far. If you've gone to school in Pennsylvania, this is how it is, and probably most of the schools in the US, if not all of them. Anyways, you learn high school algebra so that you could learn calculus. You learn calculus so you can learn differential equations, and differential equations is used for understanding physics, and physics is how we understand a lot of the world. The thing is that we're going to be deviating away from that. So we're kind of going off into this separate place of discrete math. See, those maths there, they focus on a thing called continuous math. That's kind of the opposite of discrete math. And so it's going to be a lot of different things that you have been exposed to so far, and that's okay. But it's not like too different. Let me give you an example. So here I have a GPS thing from, I think it's Google Maps, going from the Westgate building to Old Main, right? Notice there's a few paths. And let's kind of talk about like the different measurements of things that we're looking for so far, right? So right now, if you look at the dotted line, it's saying that it takes 8 minutes to walk that, whatever that starting location is, to whatever that finish location. So like, I mean, Old Main's kind of a big building. Westgate's kind of a big building. Where exactly is it starting? Does it really take 8 minutes? Is it really 0.4? I mean, like, even if you knew the exact location of those two things, neither one of those would be exact. You're still rounding. And that's kind of the thing with continuous values, is that there's some serious rounding that has to occur in order for that to be observable, right? Things that in discrete math that we would care about are things like, how many streets does the path cross? Notice there's no real rounding. I mean, we could round to the nearest 10 or something like that, but like essentially, like, let's say it crosses 5. It's 5 is what it is, right? Similarly, how many corners are turned? Notice these are integers. There's no real rounding that goes on. They're distinct. And that's like one of the key things about what we're talking about with discrete. How many paths are considered? Once again, another integer. But here's one that's not an integer. Does it connect by sidewalk? Notice that's a yes or no. So kind of figuring out if we use sidewalks anywhere in the path, that could be something that we use some discrete math things. Maybe we do continuous. But the idea is like, is there sidewalk or not? It's that distinct that is the key. And that's kind of the focus of a lot of our math. So the maths that we're going to be covering in the semester are helpful for encryption, social networks, normal networks, all these different things. And it's they're distinct, right? And I say maths also too because we're going into a wide breadth. We're dipping our toe into a wide breadth of different things. Okay. Anyways, let's talk about how we're going to be learning these different things. So the different things are zybooks, practice problems, quizzes, and exit slips. So zybooks is an interactive textbook that I will go into the directions in the next slide about how to get our actual textbook. Practice problems are something that are done after a lesson to kind of practice the things that we're taught. It is completion based, and you want to make sure you turn it in before the next class. that's when it's due. Quizzes, we have 7 of them in the semester. Those are used to measure your understanding throughout the semester. And then exit slips are something fun. Okay, we'll kind of touch upon these as we go along as well, but I thought I'd just introduce them bit by bit, like generally. Anyways, the textbook, like I said before, is zybooks. Make sure you follow the directions in the syllabus. There's a specific book name that you need to enter in, and then also make sure you enter in the section. Again, those directions are in the syllabus. It gives you the specific of the book that you need to put in. The section, if something happens and you accidentally pick the wrong section, it's not the end of the world. It just means that we got to adjust it. Otherwise, you're going to get a bunch of zeros throughout the semester. But if you pick the wrong one and notice that you got a zero, talk to us and we'll fix it. Okay, or work with you to fix it. But anyways, let's talk about the activities. So in zybooks, there's 3 different types of activities: participation, challenge, and exercises. So you notice like each one of these is, they have like a colored bar on the side. So the participation has an orange and also says participation activity, challenge and exercise has blue, and they both say challenge activity and exercise respectively, right? Let's look at the participation activities first. So there's 2 different kinds of participation activities. The point of participation activities is to kind of get you to interact with the material, to introduce you by that interaction. So first of all, on the one on the left, we have the animation. Okay, it kind of moves things around so you can kind of see what the concept is. The other thing is that's kind of like right behind me is the participation activities where you kind of interact more with it. And notice that there's a bunch of boxes that kind of go on the side, but in both of the top bars, there's that little pentagon that's not filled in. The idea is for you to complete a participation activity, you have to have that thing up at the top filled in. So once you hit start and once you hit a few of the things, you get this. So notice that the animation, that box is checked, right? So that activity is complete. I mean, you should, if you haven't seen the video or the animation, you should watch the animation. But as far as zybooks is concerned, you finish the activity. Notice though, with the other one, a few of the answers have been selected and they're correct. But notice that all the other boxes aren't checked, and the one, importantly, up at the top is not checked either. So you need to make sure that you finish all of them so that that last one is checked. Now, a similar one is the challenge activities. So that one starts out like this, very similar to the participation activities, and you just have to make sure you complete all the boxes on the right until you've completed that other one. Now, the final type of thing that you'll see in a zybooks is possibly exercises, and they look like this. Notice that there's no box that gets filled in after you complete things, and there's nothing for you to enter. It's just there. So the way that zybooks works, your grade, is that it's based off of your completion of both participation and challenge activities. Not all sections have challenge activities, but they all have participation activities. You need to make sure you complete all those activities in all the sections assigned before class starts. And we'll kind of emphasize the why that is in a little bit when we talk about the late policy. But notice that I didn't say anything about the exercises. The exercises aren't part of your zybooks grade. It's just the participation in the challenge activities. Okay. The exercise, if you want to do them, you can talk to us. I have solutions. You don't necessarily, but it's just, I think I leave it in there to give you the option to kind of explore the material further if you want. But again, it's not part of your grade. Okay. Now, the basic flow of the lesson is if you think about the before class, the during class, and the after class. The before class is the zybooks. That's where it introduces you to the material. The during class, that's the lecture. That's where I'm going to talk about the material with you. And then lastly, we have the practice problems where you practice the material from that lecture. And so notice that those practice problems are due before the next class. So notice before, and I know I said notice twice, but notice that like we have the zybooks for the lesson for that day are due right before class, and the practice problems from the previous class are due right before class. Now the breakdown for how this course is right over here. The participation is measured by the exit slips. Notice that makes up 0% of your grade. zybooks grades are based off of completion. Practice problems are graded through Canvas, and quizzes are taken on designated days. There are 7 quizzes, but you are graded on 6 of them. Canvas will automatically drop the lowest one. The zybooks, it says that it's based off of completion. We talked about that earlier in the video about how with the check marks, you want to try to get it I will assign different sections of zybooks, and you need to complete all the participation and challenge activities in those given sections. The practice problems, those are given in Canvas, and where they're given, that's where you're submitting them, and those are due right before class. We don't take them through Canvas message. We take them only through that Canvas assignment. The thing is like there's lots of you in class, and in order to make sure we're grading them fairly, and we need to have them all in the same location. Okay. Now the different policies. So first of all, attendance. You should come to class when you can. You're expected to come to class when you can, but things happen. We'll kind of go into how we handle that, but the idea is like going to class is not just expected, but it's helpful. You can help participate in discussion. The thing is like you learn more when you're interacting with the material. That means asking questions in class, and kind of hearing other people's questions and kind of pondering on how that relates to your understanding. It's an important part of learning. Learning is very interactive, or learning happens better when it's interactive than when it's passive. Hence, these videos are just supplemental. Now, the practice problems, we will go over those in class. That's a great way for you to ask questions. The idea is like I said, those practice problems are graded on completeness, not on correctness. For most of the semester, it'll change eventually, but for the most part, when you come across a practice problem, you want to try to do the best that you can, and then check that with the solution so that you can see how well you did. And then as we're going over them, I'll give you pointers of things that I've noticed that people have made mistakes on. And then also you can ask questions directly about the practice problems to see why it's something different, or why it's not how you thought, or things like that, or hear what other people thought. It's important to kind of like, this is part of the process of learning. We also will go over the exit slip fun findings too. Now, like I said before, things happen, and I get it. So like, for instance, some things happen, practice problems take you a little longer or something like that. And so instead of just getting the cutoff of just right before class, I've added a 24-hour grace period where you can turn in the assignment for partial credit. That way, if you can't make it directly on time for whatever the reason, you still can get partial credit. And it's just 20 points off out of the 100 for each of those practice problems. And it's 24 hours after it's due. So 24 hours the next day, or not 24 hours the next day, but like after that 24 hours, we're no longer accepting those practice problems. Okay? So you're at least able to get some of those points even when it's late. Now, as far as the quizzes are concerned, there's no late policy for that. We have quiz that day. You need to make sure you take the quiz that time. So with the zybooks, what we have to do is we have to enter in the sections that we're looking for. So let's say the first ones are 1.1 to 1.3. So we enter in those sections, the date and time that it's due, and zybooks will give us a spreadsheet for each that has a value that's a percentage for each one of the students. That percentage is the amount of completed activities that zybooks says you did in that time. We're using that for your grade for zybooks. And because we have to download it for the class for each assignment, there's a lot of zybooks. So because there's so many students, to do a late policy would be a logistics nightmare. So we're not going to. Okay, so make sure you get that zybooks in complete on time. So as I said before, the exit slip is 0% of your grade. So there's no real need for doing a late policy. And just as a heads up, if you send me a message in Canvas, that's the preferred way of talking to me about reopening a exit slip, I'm not going to. It's 0% of your grade. Just do it next time, okay? All right, anyways. The other thing, even though COVID's not as big of a thing as it was last year or whatever, but the idea is that the sickness still happens, right? And this is where I kind of I put all these together. Sickness, hospitalization, things like that, things that you can't predict. The thing is like if something's preventing you from turning something in, talk to me, send me a message in Canvas a week from when then something's due, and we can usually work something out. Okay. So the idea is like I need to have like I set the week up so that it's not like say you did get the Rona at the beginning of the semester, and it prevented you from turning something in. We can't have you at the very end of the semester saying, "Oh yeah, I did I was sick and I couldn't do the assignment," and that was at the beginning of the semester, and you're telling us that at the end of it. We can't accommodate to that. That's too long. You need to communicate that there's an issue as close to when it happens. And I understand that maybe you're hospitalized or something like that, so you can't immediately. But I figure within a week you can send a message to me and the teaching team, or at least just me, to let us know that you can't complete it on time. So that's when you should do it. The thing is that when you send a message requesting that that you can't do something on time, I need like a reason. I don't need specifics at all. Like I need to know family emergency, religious reason. That's usually a planned thing. So for unplanned things, we have family emergencies, hospitalization, sickness, those sort of things. Notice that it's telling me what the issue is without being specific. That's great. I don't need to know what kind of sickness. I don't need to know why you're in the hospital. That is personal information that I don't need or want to know. I just need to know that it's not something silly like you overslept your alarm or you weren't quite ready for the exam or things like that. Okay. The idea is like, it just needs to, I just need to know that, why I'm giving you that, accommodation. And if you need any specific, like if you need more clarification on what that is, I'm more than happy to help. But anyways, in the message that you send, say what happened, sickness, hospitalization, those sorts of things, family emergency, those things that you can't control, right? You say what the issue is, and then also the assignment that you can't complete, and then finally when you can when you think you can complete it. Now, if you're in the hospital, you don't know, then you don't know. Say that, okay? Because that's going to be my follow-up question. When do you think you can do it? Okay. But I have lots of different students, lots of different classes. Just telling me that you're sick. I don't know when you can get things done, what assignments you can't do. I don't know. That's why I need that information in that email or that message in Canvas. Okay. And so the reason why I emphasize this so much is to expedite this process so I don't have to keep doing it for everybody. And so it can get you back on track as fast as possible. Okay. The other thing that's super important is academic integrity. It's important to the university, it's important to college, and it's important to me. The thing is like you were working so hard to do well in this class, to learn the material and do well. And things that I want to make sure I address is that if somebody is cutting corners and not earning their grade quite like you, then we have an issue. And so I take academic integrity very seriously. It's not a personal issue. It's just I need to make sure that the grades that people earned are accurate to their understanding. And if it's not, it needs to be addressed. So Make sure you're doing work with yourself, or make sure you're doing your own work, submitting your own problems, those sorts of things. I do want you to work with others. I just don't want you to turn in their work. Okay. So when you're doing your, like, working with others, like, some people learn by talking with each other. That's totally cool. But what's not cool is saying, you do these problems, I'll do these problems, we'll share the answers. That's the issue. Okay. Because then you have problems on your practice problem that you're not doing, or somebody else has problems on their problems that they didn't do, right? You're not submitting your work. That's the problem. So if you have any questions about that, I know it seems kind of contradictory that I want you to work together, but I want you to do your own work. That's, yeah, I mean, you can talk to each other, just don't take their answers. Okay. And that also goes for generative AI. You don't need to use generative AI for this class to complete the assignments. And if you do, that'll be just like using somebody else's work. Okay. That's all I can think of on this topic. All right. Anyways, requirements and expectations. So the math expectations are, first of all, fractions. You got to be able to know how to simplify fractions. We'll be doing that throughout the semester. I mean, that's middle school. I think you did that in elementary school. It's something that you'll be still expected to do. The weird thing is expanding and factoring polynomials. So the idea is like, you're not really going to be, you might be expanding, but not factoring. So don't worry too much about that. But the idea is like that mathematical gumption that you needed in calculus and your previous math to do those sort of things. You're going to be drawing upon those skills for this class. Okay. But we're not actually going to be factoring polynomials in this class. We will be factoring integers, and that's in here. That's going to be closer to the, we'll do it sooner than that. So yeah, just think about like, how do you get factors of a number? Should be pretty easy. Order of operations. This is super important because this is how we communicate the same answers for the same problem, right? So if we have A plus B times C, we should both get the same answer. Okay. Can't have multiple correct answers to the same problem. That just doesn't make any sense. Factorials, that'll make more sense when we get to combinatorics. You need to make sure you do that. And percentages, that's important for understanding your grade. To understand how much does a practice problem affect your grade. I gave you the percentage for all the practice problems, but like, you should be able to figure out how does one practice problem affect your grade, or how does one zybooks affect your grade, all those sorts of things. And it's like, percentages are also important in life. Knowing how to find 10%, you move the decimal over. Find 20%, you divide by 5, or move the decimal over and multiply by 2. There you go. That's 20%. The technical requirements is that you need to make sure you bring a laptop at least for, I mean, you need a computer to work on for doing all the assignments, but you need a laptop for doing the quizzes. It's kind of part of the course. There's different ones that you can borrow through the school, but you need to be able to connect to the internet to do your homework. And then you also need to have something that connects to the internet for the quizzes. That's how we're going to be measuring your understanding. Also, another thing is a can-do attitude. Can't learn if you don't think you can. Okay, you got to believe in yourself. And then also smile. I'll be looking at y'all. I want to see smiling faces. I respond better to that. Okay. I got a laugh track. All right. We've almost finished the lecture. Let's finish it off strong. So one of the spoilers for the end of the semester is, like I said, you get to drop your lowest quiz grade. And that starts after the second quiz because it needs to have something to drop, right? Can't just drop after the first one because then you wouldn't have any. Anyways, by the end of the semester, your lowest quiz grade will be dropped. Like I said, Canvas does that automatically. Moving on to the next thing. What Canvas doesn't do is round your grade. Based upon the scheme that I said before, that I showed before, Canvas grades gives you a letter grade based upon your percentage. And so what I do is I round your grade to the nearest integer. And so that could be rounding up. So if it's a 92.5, it'll be a 93. If it's a 92.4, it's still a 92. And so then based upon that, I'll determine your letter grades. And that's as far as I round, right? So I'm already dropping your lowest quiz grade. I have the practice problem. Most of the practice problem are graded on completeness. Zybooks is pretty on completeness too, and there's lots of practice problems and there's lots of zybooks, so that if something happens to one of those, it doesn't really tank your whole grade. So I'm doing a lot for you at this point, and so that's all that I do. Okay. Anyways, what you need to do before the next class is, well, exit slip is already too late, probably by the time you watch this video. Make sure you sign up for zybooks and select the correct selection. Before class, you need to have complete zybooks 1.1 to 1.3. The one thing that I will say before we go is that with zybooks, you want to make sure you try to do that the day before if you can. Because just the way the submission process works for zybooks, there's no real submit for the sections that you do. You just do it and you move on. Just to make sure zybooks registers it, I recommend doing it the day before and not just right before class. Okay? Anyways, I think that's good for today. I'll see you all later. Bye. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please press the like button below. It lets me know I'm doing something right. If you have any questions about any of the content, please send a message to both me and the rest of the teaching team in Canvas, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Don't send it through normal email. You will not get as fast response. If you have any suggestions for how I can make these videos better, please leave in the comments below. Don't forget to roundhouse kick the subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified for the next video. Anyways, I think that's good for now. See y'all later. Bye.